Hey everybody, welcome to Walk Daily. This is Micah Holt here with you, and I am back, getting back on track with these weekly videos as we read through the Bible together. Hopefully you guys are reading along. I have been a little bit absent over the last month or so. I've had a few videos here and there, but I haven't really been on track with my weekly book of the Bible study, which is what this channel was started as. So I want to apologize for that, and just want to say I'm back on track starting this week and getting ready for next week already. So I've got numbers here ready to go for you, and I hope that you have read it. And if you haven't, read numbers and maybe be able to help understand a little bit of this, as well as just there's so much more in it than what I can go over in 15-20 minutes here on this video. So let's get started right here. There's 8 different times that the people of Israel complained while they were wandering the desert, and it talks a lot about their complaining and how we need to be careful of the complaining that we do, because it isn't what God wants. So the first time I want to talk about happened in chapter 11, and they were remembering all the things that they had in Egypt in their captivity, and they were longing for that captivity, actually, because they had plenty of food, plenty of water, all of the things that they had as slaves to keep them in slavery and whatnot, I guess. And they were actually longing for that captivity, saying, man, we had it so much better back there in Egypt, and now you brought us out here in the wilderness to die. And all of that complaining really angered God, because he had a purpose and he was drawing them out, and he got upset about it. Now, after all their complaining, in verse 19 and 20, he says that he will give them meat to eat until they can't eat anymore. Out of their nostrils it will come even until they vomit because of their complaining. And he got so mad that he basically said, all right, fine, we're going to give you so much meat that you can't even eat it all. That's how I'm gonna help you out there. I'm gonna give you so much meat you can't even eat it. You're gonna vomit it out until it's disgusting to you. And it's just a weird thought to even think about. When you think about the Bible, you don't think about that sort of thing usually. But again, that's part of reading the Bible. You come up with things that you don't necessarily hear in Sunday school. So I like that. Number 2, the second time, they complained about Moses' leadership in chapter 12. Aaron and Miriam said that they were as good as Moses, and God was angered about that. He called them out, and he showed them that they were loved and important, but that Moses was favored and he was called. He cursed Miriam with leprosy over that even. You see, now sometimes we get a little upset at our leaders, our pastors, our elders. We don't think that they're doing what we want them to do. Maybe they're not preaching the right sermon. Maybe they're not leading the right song. And we start to think, well, we could do that. I could do better than that. But we have to understand that our leadership, our pastors and our elders, our music ministers, and so on and so forth like that, Sunday school teachers, they are called to do a job by God, and they're there for a reason. Now, let's hope that those people are seeking after God, seeking after his heart, seeking after what God would want them to share with us, and how that they should be leading per God's decisions. And that we have to trust that would happen, and pray for them so that they do not be led astray. And the third way here was that they complained about the giants that they would have to face to get into the promised land in chapter 14, 1 through 4. They didn't trust that God was big enough to bring them through their struggles, even though they had seen so many great things in their past. And that's a good lesson for us. We oftentimes go through a struggle, whether it be the loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, any kind of hardship. Right now we're going through this coronavirus thing, and everybody is scared to death of what's going to happen. Is our economy going to completely collapse? Are we going to have jobs at the end of all of this? Are we going to be able to make it through with food and supplies until it's over? And a lot of people have lost faith throughout this, or they're questioning God and wondering what in the world's going on. But during this time, especially, we need to really be we really need to be focused on God and remembering the things that we've been through. So many things that we have come through are good, good now, but were really horrible at the time. And we need to remember that God brought us through those, and He's faithful to get through us through the rest of things. So, number 4, the fourth time here, they complained and wanted even to kill Moses and Aaron in chapter 14, verse 10. After Moses and Aaron said that they would have the Lord on their side, the people were ready to find new leadership. So Moses and Aaron were saying, hey, they just got done complaining about the giants. And then Moses and Aaron come in and say, hey, guys, we're fine. God is on our side. He wants us in that promised land. And He's going to take care of us. He's going to let us face these giants. And we're going to move on. And we're going to be okay. But the people didn't want to hear it. They were so afraid, and they were lacking their faith in God, that they wanted to find somebody else to lead them, maybe into the promised land a different way, or maybe something was going to be completely different. But they were looking for somebody new. And a lot of times we do that in our own churches. If something doesn't go just right, if we don't get what we want to throw that leader out. We want to get somebody new just because we don't like what it is that they're doing. Number 5, they complained yet again and rose up against their leadership in chapter 16. In verse 31, God causes the earth to open up and swallow all these rebels. And it seems like anytime these people don't get their way, they want someone new to lead. And my goodness, how many times have we seen that? If you look at churches over the years, or over, and not just the churches, but you look at our government. We vote these people in, and we support them, and we rally behind them, and we show our support, and we get hats and T-shirts and bumper stickers and all of that. But they do one thing wrong, and people are ready to get out the pitchforks and the torches, ready to get out the feathers and the tar and get somebody new, because it's not going just like they like it. But we have to remember, in all things, God is in control, and God is leading us where He wants us to be. And we may not see all that is going to happen. We may not know what the steps are going to be to get to the end. But we have to understand, and we have to believe and trust that God is going to get us to a good place in the end. And especially when considering this life. Well, this life isn't as important as the next one anyway. So all we have to do is rely on God to get us through until the day we get to go be with Him anyway. Okay, let's move on to number 6. The 6th time, the people complained and accused Moses of killing God's people in chapter 16, verse 41. See, they were finally so mad, and they were so upset with Moses and his leadership. Well, they accused him of actually causing all of this death and destruction. They accused him of the swallowing up of the people that we just talked about in the previous in the previous few verses here, and God was angered with that because He had sent Moses. He had sent Moses to do these things, and He wanted the people to follow Him, and He wanted people to follow, Himself, God. Now, He gets so angry that these people are still rebelling and still calling for Moses' head on the proverbial platter, so to speak, that He now sends a plague and kills so many in chapter 16, verse 45 through 49. Next time that they complain is the number 7. They complain about the lack of water, and they rise up against Moses and Aaron. Now Moses, who has been interceding for his people all of this time, he finally runs out of patience in chapter 20, verse 1 through 5. Okay, now a lot of the times we look at this and we think, well, why would Moses get upset? You know, he's supposed to be this pillar, you know. He's a pillar of our Old Testament beliefs, and he's led all of these people, and he's supposed to be such a good guy. In the same way, we look at our pastors, and they're not supposed to get mad or angry. They're supposed to just lead us and take whatever we give them. Well, that's not right. That's not right at all. In fact, if you look at Moses here, he finally got so fed up. He was trying to lead, he was trying to do all the good things, all the things that God showed him to do. And the people were just rebelling. They were angry at him and angry at Aaron. And finally, he just gets fed up, and he gets angry. He loses his temper, and he goes away from this interceding for everybody. And you know, after he loses his patience, which he'd been on their side all this time. Well, our own pastors can get that way sometimes, and we have to, one, expect that they deserve that. They deserve to get angry once in a while. You know, they try their best, and sometimes things don't always go the way we want them to. But if they're going to lead us, then we have to be understanding that not everything can go our way. And sometimes they're going to get upset about the way that we show our lack of faith after they work so hard. So the last one here is that they complained and became impatient. In chapter 21, verse 4 and 5, God sends fiery serpents to bite those who had complained. So we look at all these complaints, and the first 6 times they were complaining about leadership, they were complaining about the food, the things that were going on in their lives out there in the desert. And God's getting angry, but Moses, their leader, is standing between them and God saying, God, please take care of them. I know they're upset. I know they're angering you, and you deserve to be upset. You deserve to be angry, but please spare them for a little bit longer. Well, God does. God listens for a while. And then he finally gets so upset that he has to punish people. Moses is still on their side. And then finally we get down here in the 7th complaint. And again, they're complaining, God's angry, and Moses throws up his hands. He says, hey, God, do what you got to do. They complain again. They're impatient. And God sends these fiery serpents to bite those who complain. Because God sometimes has to discipline us. Sometimes we have to have something that really shakes our core to get us to understand that he is in control and he is the one leading us, and he needs to have the respect and the honor and the glory given to him because of what he does. We're moving on to Philippians 2:14, and that says, do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in this world. All right, so we're kind of looking at us now as modern day Christ followers. What does that, all that complaining back in Numbers, what does that have to do with us now? Well, if you look at Philippians here in chapter 2, and it talks about we shouldn't be complaining. We shouldn't be disputing amongst each other. We are the light in this world, this light in this twisted generation. There are people out there hopeless. There are people who don't know what's going on. They don't know Jesus. And it's our job to show them that. And this is one of those times that more than ever is a time that we need to be out there preaching the word and showing people hope. Now, we can't be doing that if we're complaining all the time. What are people going to be seeing? If they see us complaining all the time, they can't be thinking we're serious when we try to preach the hope of the Lord. And if we're arguing amongst each other, amongst, Protestants versus Catholics, and, even different Protestant denominations, about these little bitty things that don't necessarily matter. those are the things we need to not be focused on, but focus on Jesus and his salvation and his hope and spreading that to everyone else. The next verse I'll have you look at is Romans 8:28. We've gone over this one before, but it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Now, if that's the case, and you're called according to his purpose, as we talked about a couple of months ago, we all are, as a people of God, as chosen people, as people who have given our lives over to the Lord to allow him to lead us. Well, he's going to lead us for a purpose. And if we are called to that purpose, then all things work to good for us. So that means in the midst of losing our home, or in the midst of our child being sick, or in the midst of this coronavirus that is causing worldwide panic, God is working all of that for good. Maybe he caused this, maybe he did not, but he is, one way or the other, going to use it for good. There are videos all over Facebook right now and that are showing people coming together for praying for the first responders and for nurses, people that are out there in the hospitals, parking lots, praying and encouraging the healthcare workers. That is something that is good, and that God is using this crisis for good. And he will continue to do things like that. We just have to be looking for them. Now, the last verse I've got here is Proverbs 17:22, and it says, "A joyful heart is good medicine." Now, that doesn't mean you need to reject modern medicine and quit going to the doctors. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if you are joyful, you're going to get through this life a whole lot better. The old saying of, you attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar. Well, that's the same exact thing here. You attract more of the unsaved with joy than you do with complaints. And that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to reach the lost. So let's go out there and be joyful for what we do have and for what we know is going to be in the end, okay? Let's be joyful for God to all those that we see. Guys, I thank you very much for bearing with me over the last couple of months, especially the last 4 or 5 weeks where I've been slacking off. And I hope that now that we're back, I hope that you're back with me. I hope that there are people out there still looking for God, still looking for his word and reading it. And I hope that we can all start sharing that again. Let's not be like the people who wander in the desert and complain. Let's not be unsure of what God has for us. But instead, let's remember all the good things that we have now after the bad that we experienced. We have to remember that we were led out of bad things through possibly even more bad things to good. And here we are again. And we're going to keep going through bad, but God's going to keep bringing us through it. Remember that he's going to lead us into his purpose. So again, I thank you very much for joining me today. I thank you for subscribing to this channel. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that notification bell thing down there. Subscribe so that you get all of these messages. And let's share with one another. Respond, comment down there below. Share it with friends. Comment with them. And let's have dialogue. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you think about what I've said. I'll respond likewise. Let's keep it obviously kind. Like I said, I'm no scholar. I'm just trying to talk about it. So like, share, subscribe. Let's dialogue. Come back and see me next week, or in fact, come back tomorrow for our daily devotion, and we'll see what that's about. Okay, guys, have a great week. God bless you. Thanks very much for joining me. Bye-bye.